A.W. Tozer's inspiring story of faith, humility, and dedication. Discover his journey and the valuable lessons we can learn from his life. Let's watch.
Mr. Tozer was astonished when a lamb with 3 years was born. His son, Adin, watched as the newborn tried to nuzzle its mother, but the sheep pushed it away. Thinking he had startled the ewe, Mr. Tozer asked Adin to check on them later. Adin, a kind-hearted but argumentative boy, cared deeply for animals. He had once nursed a weak pig back to health. When he returned to the lamb, he found it shivering and alone. Wrapping it in his jacket, he took it to the house, where his mother examined it. She instructed him to get fresh milk from his brother, and soon the lamb was warm and fed. Adin asked if he could keep it, and his mother agreed. Night, Mr. Tozer told his wife, Adin is kind, but he can pick a fight anywhere. She replied, he's like my mother, and that's not a compliment. Adin later played in an apple tree with his sister, Essie, singing a Sunday school song. Their neighbor teasingly told him to mend his ways if he wanted to go to heaven. Annoyed, Adin glared but stayed silent. One morning, he told his parents about a dream where their house burned down. His father dismissed it, but the dream deeply affected Adin. He planned an escape route, which, months later, saved his siblings when their house actually caught fire. Even their skeptical neighbor admitted Adin was a hero. After the fire, Adin decided he hated his name. He insisted on being called A.W. from then on. At 17, A.W. encountered a street preacher who said, "Call on God, Lord, be merciful to me, a sinner." The words stayed with him. As he walked home, he reflected on his past arguments and remembered what his grandmother had told him about God. That night, he prayed in the attic and became a Christian. His transformation was so evident that people in town noticed.
In 1919, A.W. became a pastor in West Virginia, later serving in Ohio, Indiana, and Chicago. He and his wife, Ada, had 7 children. Despite financial struggles, they relied on God for provision. When offered a salary increase, A.W. declined, trusting God to meet their needs. One day, his son asked, "Why don't we get a car? You travel so much." A.W. replied, "We don't need one." His son wondered, "Can't we have things just because we want them?" A.W. smiled, "All I need is my family, food, warm clothes, and my books." A.W. was a devoted writer. His children often joked that he was always writing a book. In reality, he also wrote letters, encouraging young people to live for Christ. One evening, his son Stanley asked, "Does every father work as hard as you?" A.W. replied, "Not everyone has the best news in the world to share. If you had good news, wouldn't you want to tell everyone?" Stanley agreed but wondered why his father never took vacations. A.W. simply said, "A preaching tour or camp is better than a holiday for me." In May 1963, A.W. suffered a heart attack and passed away. His impact remained through his over 40 books, teaching countless people to live for Christ. Despite never attending college, his deep knowledge of the Bible shaped his legacy as one of the greatest Christian writers and preachers of his time. Moral of the story: A.W. Tozer's life teaches us that true success is not measured by wealth but by faith, humility, and dedication to God. His kindness toward animals and people reminds us to be compassionate. His trust in God's provision shows that material things are temporary, but faith lasts forever. Tozer's transformation from a stubborn boy to a devoted Christian proves that anyone can change with God's guidance. His disciplined life of prayer and simplicity teaches us to focus on spiritual growth rather than worldly pleasures. His quick thinking during the fire shows the importance of being prepared for challenges. Above all, his commitment to spreading the gospel teaches us that serving God and helping others is the highest purpose in life.